me, Google Hangout, and we want to welcome you to this Google Hangout with the Making Learning Connected MOOC, and we have a bunch of visitors that are going to join Terry and I as the facilitators this week, and we hope you're watching a live stream and also thinking about the different kind of things you can be making as part of this first entry into the MOOC. And I'm Kevin Hodgson. I teach 6th grade out in Southampton, Massachusetts. I'm also the technology liaison with the Western Mass Writing Project. And I'm going to have our guests here introduce themselves as we kind of go along. I'm going to pass it off to Terry here, my co-facilitator. And I should say, too, that we're just 2 of a team that are facilitating the MOOC this summer. We have Anna Smith, Chad Sanzing, Karen Fessenbauer, Joe Dillon, Stephanie West Puckett, as well as a couple of friends from the National Writing Project, Paul O, Christina Cantrell, Jordan Lusick, who are kind of helping us get things rolling this summer. But for this, we have some really special guests, so we're excited to be here and kind of share some of the things we've seen this weekend and get you thinking about making yourself. So, Terry?
My name's Terry Elliott, and I teach at Western Kentucky University and work with the Western Kentucky University Writing Project. And I've been a tech liaison with them for the last 4 years, and I've spent a lot of summers doing tech academies, the last 4 summers doing tech academies, short 3-day tech academies. And I got involved with a lot of the folks here originally through last August's, what did they call that? Connected Educator Month. Yeah, Connected Educator Month. And this has kind of bloomed for me into this facilitating with these folks, and it's always good to be in a room with a lot of smart people because they make you a lot smarter. So if you all would just kind of introduce yourselves and tell us a little about yourselves. Michael, start with you.
Perfect. My name is Michael Bust. I live in Queen Creek, Arizona, which is about 45 minutes south east of Sky Harbor Airport in Phoenix, Arizona. I teach 5th grade at Knox Gift Academy. It's a academically gifted school of choice in the Chandler Public School District. Our philosophy at that school is really kind of a blend of problem-based learning and STEAM. So. And I've been teaching with this district for 15 years and working with gifted students for, I think I'll be starting my 9th year. Oh, great. And so now what do I want to get out of this? The fact that I'm able to connect with people from around the world of various backgrounds is just the coolest thing for me.
Great, Michael. Gail, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Gail Poulin. As Kevin said, I teach in the same school he does in Southampton, Massachusetts. I happen to be a kindergarten teacher, which is way at the other end of the conversations you usually have, I think. And I've been doing it for, I believe I'm finishing year 12, with many more in a preschool environment. So why am I here? Well, I got to tell you, Kevin's my mentor. He doesn't know it except that I tell him from time to time. But he leads the way, and I'm connected with him in many social networks as well as at school, where we get to pass very briefly between. But I'm here because I love to learn, and there are so many opportunities when you connect with other people with common interests to learn new things and try new things and fail and jump in again at new things. So I'm going to go ahead with that kind of experience again, and I know I'll get a lot out of it. And glad I can share a little bit with others.
Great. Thanks, Gail.
Thanks, Gail.
Elise?
Hey, everybody. I'm Elise Eidman-Adol, and I'm at the National Writing Project. And my luck and privilege is to hang out with all these great educators in the National Writing Project, K through University, across the curriculum, libraries, museums, everywhere there's just amazing folks. And what's really exciting and what I hope to get out of this whole MOOC experience is just, and I hope that's not me, we may need to do some muting of our Hangouts. Sorry about that. What I hope to get out of it is just broadening this amazing network, because I think there's just a groundswell right now actually in the country. I think it's in formal education. I think it's in learning institutions. I think it's with parents to kind of take this ship that's been, this tanker that's been going in a direction that is increasingly uncomfortable, I think, to a lot of people, that closes out too much of what's really important about innovation and creativity and critical thinking and expression. A lot of that's been pushed out of the curriculum, and I think right now people are really gathering momentum to try and make some change and try to bring some of that back into our educational settings. And I think that those people are everywhere. So I hope that through this MOOC we get to find more of each other and kind of build this movement, like I said, to take the ship and maybe start to right it a little bit in a different direction.
Great, thank you, Elise. Christina?
Hi, everybody. I'm Christina DiMaselli, and I'm in New Hampshire. I teach at Hampstead Academy. It's a K-8 school, and I have my fingers in there and all the grades, but I mostly work with the middle school grades. That would be my focus. And I am a technology integration specialist is my title there, and this is my first MOOC, so I'm really excited about it. I've taken a lot of online courses. I've been fairly active on Twitter and built a PLN there, and I think this is possibly the next step and the next level to collaborating and learning from each other. And even in just the first really day that I've been involved with the MOOC has been fascinating to watch everybody's introductions and how already we're getting different ideas and starting to kind of build on top of everybody else's ideas and share some of those things. So that's fascinating to me, and I'm really looking forward to building that out a little bit and being able to share with everybody.
Great, thanks. It's great to have you. Great to have all of you here with as Terry and I kind of think about, start talking about, and maybe get some suggestions on where people might go if they're interested in making things as part of this MOOC experience. And I guess the chat room is still kind of under construction at our live feed, so if you're watching there, we want to say hello to you, and hopefully soon to get some comments from you and questions as well. But we're going to move forward with our discussion as well. You know, Terry and I and others have been working for a number of weeks now to, with Elise and others, to try to think through what this MOOC experience might look like for us and for participants. And you know, I just want to say that we really taken this idea of openness to heart as much as we can, and tried to give as much leeway for people to be creating things and making things and reflecting on it that works for them. And as we move through the next couple of weeks, too, we'll be doing more and drawing it to some of the principles around connected learning that Elise hinted at, around the philosophy of thinking about how to help our students really use technology and digital media in meaningful, authentic ways that really tap into who they are and how they can connect with the world. We're hoping that more people join in as we move forward and really help us engage in that kind of conversation and connections. And we want to also encourage everyone that you know, how you engage and the time you spend will really be up to you. That kind of open nature is designed for you to come when you're inspired and share what your knowledge is, and learn from each other as well. So, and I think we've seen a lot of that this first weekend. You know, Terry and I were talking earlier that we had one of those moments on Saturday morning where we posted the blog, posted the newsletter, and said, is anybody going to come? You know, because you never know, really. I mean, we were pretty confident that people were going to show up. But just the wealth of and range of media used in introductions has really been really wonderful to see. So, and we'll talk more about that as we kind of move along as well. But we were hoping to frame our MOOC planning this summer as part of a bigger picture too that Elise hinted at. And maybe I could just turn to Elise to kind of explain a little about some of the things that not just the writing project, but a number of other great organizations are involved in the summer to really pull together this idea of making connected learning and thinking through the possibilities for people in the classroom. So, Elise, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, great. Thanks. Thanks, Kevin. And actually, Christina, in our little chat line that we have here inside the Google Hangout, you just posted like a great comment that this MOOC was almost like a digital maker fair. And I think that's really true. It's really inspired in a lot of ways by the maker movement. And if you're listening to us on streaming, and you ever have a chance to get to a maker fair, I think it's one of the great ways to tap into kind of the spirit of what we're trying to talk about, both in this MOOC and in many of the other things happening this summer. As Kevin said, this MOOC is part of kind of a big party, a global big maker party that's happening this summer. And part of what I want to do is give people that context, and I'm actually going to show everybody some slides. We'll look at a screen share so you can see some of the websites that are part of this summer of Making and Connecting that I'll talk about. But just a step before that to say one prior thing. A lot of us that are connected in the work that I'll mention across these websites have been looking at a theory base and an approach to learning that we've used the term connected learning for. And that connected learning phrase, it grows out of research, but it also is something that a lot of different people use to describe some of the changes that are happening really globally, some of the transformation that's possible because of the flowering of the internet. So the internet, the web, the movement toward Web 2.0, and people are playing here, that's great. Web 2.0, and whatever is going to happen as this incredible medium, which is the internet, develops, has really put out into the world so many opportunities for people to learn something that they wouldn't maybe encounter otherwise in their daily life, or through the resources in a local library or the mentors they have available. Now, because of the web, people can really reach out and learn from almost anybody, anywhere, pretty much about anything. So it's an incredible learning environment. And I'm really using the word learning specifically to distinguish it from the question of how it's a teaching environment. If you sort of get the distinction I'm making. If you picture a learner with some great digital skills, he or she with an interest could almost go anywhere and really mine an incredible wealth of open resources, an incredible wealth of mentors, and they could do it in a kind of self-directed way. Sometimes there's a phrase now, the entrepreneurial learner, the learner who has kind of some energy and some skills to go out and get something and learn something. Well, for any of us that teach, or we're in libraries or museums or any learning institutions, the question of what it means to teach in relationship to the notion that everybody that we're teaching could be this entrepreneurial learner, could go so far beyond the resources that we would have just physically available in the classroom or through our own experience or knowledge. How it is that we can be teachers in that environment and really activate and really make possible for this entrepreneurial learner to go far beyond probably anything that we can imagine right now. So part of what we wanted to do to help all of us start to think about this is just create a summer where teachers and librarians and museum educators could be that entrepreneurial learner. So this MOOC really grows out of not trying to think about how to deliver a course, even though the word C in MOOC usually means course. We're actually thinking, what about a massive open online collaboration that lets us experience what it means just to follow our own interests and just to figure out how to use digital tools, the web, and colleagues and mentors we can find through the web to help us be learners. And that's kind of the spirit of the summer. So I'm going to kick over to screen share just for a second and show people some websites to give you the sense of all the different groups and organizations that are participating in this notion of let's just take the summer to be entrepreneurial learners. Learn something new, make something new, follow an interest on the web, and see what it's like as a learner. Then we'll figure out what to do as teachers. So I'm going to kick over, hopefully it works,
Okay.
over to screen share. And if it's working, folks should see the MOOC. Okay.
We're on the MOOC.
So probably, if you're watching this Hangout, you probably found your way to this site. This is the home base site for the MOOC, the CL MOOC, Making Learning Connected MOOC. And this is kind of home base for the particular thread of work that we're doing in this MOOC. But I want to point some other sites out to you, and it'll just take a minute, so it's not going to be a big slideshow, just looking at a couple of sites. This MOOC is part of a really big effort called the Summer of Making and Connecting. And this site, which is makesummer.org, is an introduction to the huge range of learning opportunities on the web that a lot of people have brought together. The theory of it is, let's take the summer and do those two things. Let's make stuff and let's connect with each other. And make, we really mean in that sense of the DIY movement, in the sense of Maker Faire, in the sense of tinkerers, in the sense of taking some of those wonderful moments that we have sometimes in the summer, a little bit more leisure to build something or do something or make something that maybe we've always aspired to make. And then what happens when we make something and reflect on how making something was a point of interest that helped us go learn something, develop a new skill, follow a particular interest. Probably to do that, to make something and learn how to do it, we had to connect, maybe connect with learning resources, maybe connect with other people, hence the Summer of Making and Connecting. So on this site, you're going to see all kinds of events, all kinds of sometimes face-to-face events, sometimes some things that are online, courses and opportunities for learning, and this site will point you to a bunch of them. And here in the middle, you see two particular boxes, and I want to point those out too. One, this first one is called the Maker Party 2013. And that's being shepherded and sort of hosted by the NWP together with our good friends at Mozilla through the Mozilla Webmaker Program. And Mozilla is trying to put together a whole bunch of tools and projects and opportunities for people to learn to make stuff on the web. They're just finishing up a 6-week Webmaker MOOC of their own, and you can see some of the stuff that has been built there by looking for Mozilla Webmaker in Google+. But if you go to this site, which is webmaker.org, and then actually the best thing to do is just to Google Maker Party 2013, and that'll get you here. You'll see at the top there's lots of things you may want to check out, like the tab for projects. These projects give you all kinds of different things that you might want to try to do on the web just to start playing with some web tools, and then you can upload your results. It's very much like the makes we're going to ask you to do. And actually, in some cases, for the CL MOOC, you might want to go here for an idea about a project to do for one of your makes for us. Also, you'll get an opportunity to see some of the special, wonderful Mozilla Webmaker tools that let people learn about how the web works, like Thimble and X-ray goggles and fabulous Popcorn Maker that lets you do all kinds of video mashups and things like that. And then also there are opportunities to get to find events if there are any events around you where people are doing face-to-face meetups. And a lot of little activity kits here in the Teach section that you could easily adapt to the classroom, or if you're a librarian, could be like an afternoon party you could host at a library or a summer camp. And there's sort of everything there that you may want to do in terms of how to get people together, how to set up the environment, a lot of those kinds of toolkits. So that's the Maker Party. And then the second big box here I especially want to announce to this group, and that's the Educator Innovator group. And Educator Innovator looks like this. And it's also another NWP blog. And so blog.nwp.org and then /Educator Innovator. And what Educator Innovator is an amazing group of partners. I'm going to go to the partner page. Wonderful group of partners, many of them you may know when you look at this list, who are all trying to make special opportunities available for educators in the course of the summer, for us all to play with and tap their resources to think about how to bring more creative and connected learning into our classrooms. And this group of partners is kind of growing every day, and you'll see a lot of their offerings here on the calendar of events. And you'll also see blogs, and you'll see opportunities to see some of the things that they've done, some ideas for you in your classroom, upcoming things here. It'd be great, and I really encourage people to go log in and get a subscription at Educator Innovator, because one of the things we're going to be doing at the end of the summer on this blog is picking up some of the activity from the CL MOOC and seeing if people want to really try some things in the classroom next year, kind of stay together as a learning community. And there'll be a little mini grant opportunity too that people might be able to propose some classroom, school, or library or museum ideas for. So it'd be a great thing for folks to go get connected to that so you can start to hear some of these funding opportunities. And then the very last thing to point to, we're going to talk as the MOOC goes on about connected learning. And for anybody who's interested in diving in a little earlier than we even get to it to learn more about connected learning, this website, connectedlearning.tv, is the place to go. And lots of webinars, lots of recorded interviews with people, examples of folks putting connected learning to work on the ground in all kinds of places. And this is where we're going to have 4 seminars during July that are part of this MOOC. That'll really look into how the things we're doing connect to the connected learning model. You'll see here right now Scratch, which has already come up. A bunch of people over the weekend used Scratch as a way to do their introductions, which was fabulous to see. Scratch right now, Scratch EDU is doing a series of webinars, and you see right there, they're coming up, their webinar coming up about coding and sharing, which is exactly what some people did this weekend. Makes me think I should turn it right back to Kevin and Terry to start us talking about what people did this weekend.
Great, thanks, Elise. That was really helpful. I think it's always good to kind of frame things and kind of where we are in relation to what's going on this summer, because there's a lot going on, and I think you know, we want to be sharing out all those websites to a lot of people to get resources and to kind of feel connected. And you know, one of the things I think that resonated with me, we were talking earlier, is that, you know, that we should see ourselves as learners this summer and be diving in as learners and kind of learn from that experience. And that's really an important part of what's, you know, how we see the things that we are trying to get going. And we should also remind people that making doesn't have to be digital media either. That it might be you're making your garden this summer, or a tree house, or a birdhouse, or whatever it is that, you know, we have a pretty broad definition of how we're thinking about making, and hopefully our activities as we move on through the summer will not only encourage that, but nurture that idea too. So, yeah. Terry, you want to add anything else?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that one of our biggest challenges in doing the MOOC was to move from this theoretical framework that Elise is talking about to the practical nuts and bolts framework of, okay, how do we encourage people to make things? And we've kind of taken it from 2 directions. One is the Make With Me that we're doing, which is, you know, kind of traditional, maybe a little top-down, scaffolded sort of work. Where we provide the project and people can work alongside of us and mash it up and mix it up and redo it themselves, but basically we're providing the framework. And the other way is from the bottom up with our Make Submission Bank, where you can create your own makes and submit them to other people. It's kind of a, we're modeling from Jim Groom's DS-106, which does much the same thing, and we got the idea from them. So top down, bottom up, and all kinds of good stuff meet in the middle. and that's where we use the Google Plus page to share with each other. And actually, we really don't know what will happen after a while. You reach a certain level of connectivity, and things begin to connect and squeeze out in marvelous and odd ways. So, yeah, we're definitely in the nuts and bolts business right here, Kevin and I.
Yeah, and I want to say, too, that this first week we were trying to recommend ways that people can make representations of themselves. We saw it as twofold. One is to entry into the community of people that are coming together, but also easy entry too. So we understand that people that come in at this idea of making and connected learning from different angles. Some may be familiar with it, others may have very little knowledge, and so that idea of being able to make something that shows who you are and connects that way, I think, can be really powerful. And so Terry and I the other day actually recorded a whole Make With Me kind of video session. I'll pop the kind of YouTube video link in there, but we'll be sharing it out a little more earlier this week too with the rest of the MOOC community. And what we were doing was trying to focus in on podcasting as one way that people might be thinking about how they can introduce themselves to the community. And there were a number of reasons for that. One is there are a range of fairly free, fairly easy tools to be using now around podcasting. And also, we're kind of energized by the power of voice as a way to represent who you are. And so we wanted to showcase a couple ways that people might do that. And it's certainly built on the philosophy that you're going to see over the next couple weeks around different facilitators, kind of sharing out a specific project, tool, idea, in hopes that other people might be inspired by that. Maybe not replicate it, but maybe remix it or kind of build off it. Riff off it as a way to kind of make something new and representative of themselves. So we'll be sharing again that Make With Me, not here in this broadcast because it's its own broadcast, but we'll be kind of embedding it and linking it pretty readily starting tomorrow. But podcasting is certainly one of those things that we would encourage a lot of people to try out. What Terry and I did for our makes, and then we're going to ask our guests to kind of talk about what they did, kind of built off that a little bit. So I made an animated version of me for my introduction this week using, there's a free app called Animation Desk. There's also a paid version that allows you to do kind of simple stop-motion animation using your own artwork. And so I kind of use that as a way to kind of build a representation of me with some family and interests that I have. And then I did a voiceover on that as well and kind of shared it out. And it was really interesting trying to think about what I was going to include, what I was not going to include, and also the time it was going to take me to do it. So obviously stop motion can take a little bit of time if you've never done it. Summer is encouraging people to try something new. It's certainly one of those things that, that can be really powerful. And particularly thinking about the classroom, when we've done stop motion in our school, our students have been really engaged in storytelling and other things that they've done. So that's what I did for my kind of introducing me make project this week. Terry, what did you do?
I used a tool that I talked about in the in our Make With Me called iPadio, and I'm really big into workflow and no friction, or as little friction as possible. Simple tools that link up with other tools. So I just used my phone in the field and recorded me going out to a field and being a shepherd, because we have a flock of sheep. And so I just recorded segments of that and on iPadio and uploaded them. And they automatically upload when you finish the phone call. And then I used a tool called Dropbox. Many people use Dropbox, and I sent all of my audio to Dropbox. And then I used an iPad app called BossJock to put it all together, borrowing from some free, royalty-free music that I found, and uploading everything to SoundCloud. So it was a fairly seamless sort of thing, and it was just a blast to actually come up with a really good workflow for connecting up the everyday, cell phone in hand to everybody. It's marvelous, and it's fun, and it starts with simple tools. And I think the notion of developing a repertoire is really important. You know, you don't want to just keep doing scales all your life. You want to be able to put these things together into compositions. And I think of these makes as compositions that can be shared with others, remixed, remade. So, you know, if I hadn't done this, I wouldn't be doing that, I don't think. I mean, we'd do something else, but I definitely wouldn't have made the thing that I made. And it was a lot of fun to make.
Great. Well, maybe we could ask some of our guests here. Christina, can you talk a little about what you did this weekend?
Sure. There we go. Needed to unmute my microphone. I used Animoto. Animoto has a free version, and it also, if you contact them, they will give you an education version. And so I can make a lot of different accounts for my students, and they can use it as well. And I had done what's called a 6-word memoir, and you'll see a lot of different variations of that online and in writing circles. And basically what it is you take 6 words and only 6 words, you make it into a phrase, and it has to describe yourself. So my phrase is technology geek mom striving for balance. And when I did this with my students, I told them for each one of those words that they had in their phrase, they had to find 2 images. And then they put it together in their Animoto video along with music that they chose. So it was really interesting if you have a word like striving for, and the word for, how are they going to interpret that? So that brought a lot of thinking for the kids. We also started talking about research and how to search for certain type of images. If you want to do color searches, we start talking about copyright. It really opens up a lot of different discussions on how you can use and remix things that you're finding online and using them for yourself. And I found that to be really interesting with my kids. They love to make anything that shows off themselves, and that was a pretty popular one.
And were you okay sharing yours in our kind of MOOC community? Like, just wondering how people are feeling jumping in at the beginning, where they really don't know us, they don't know each other that well. Like, what was that for you?
For me, I mean, I work with middle school kids, and I have 3 children of my own, so there's not much of an ego left anymore. So, yeah, things like that. I love sharing things like that. Not as much because I think that it's fantastic, but I love to see the ideas that jump off of that. And I love when somebody comes back and says, oh, you could do this, you could use it here, did you think about trying this? And it kind of spurs all sorts of other things that get you thinking and making and building new things. And I tend to do that as I go through this MOOC as well. I see something that somebody did and it makes a connection, and I think, oh, what if you did this with it? You tweak it just a little bit. That's exciting.
Are you looking for, you know, for other people to collaborate with? Is this kind of a conscious thing, or is it just you're just going to let it happen as the MOOC works its way through?
I tend to fly by the seat of the pants there, so I'm always, you know, up for collaboration and up for getting together, but I'm not, you know, out here actively seeking it. It tends to just kind of happen on its own a lot of times, especially with these ideas. You're kind of in the mode and in the moment, excuse me, just kind of working things through, and that's when things start to gel a little bit with people.
Yeah.
We say in the MOOC a lot.
Yeah, in the MOOC. I sometimes wonder if we should do something to help with this collaboration. I mean, you know, do you expect us to do things? Because this is brand new to us. How do we facilitate? You know, how hands-on do you think we should get?
And that's a really good question, and this being my first experience with MOOCs as well, so there's going to be a lot of things that we all learn as we go through it together. So I think that one of the most important things is for people just to be open and say, you know, we need you to back off a little bit now, or, you know, give us a little bit more. For me, I tend to be the type of person that jumps right in, but I know that that's not necessarily what everybody's comfortable with. So a little bit of structure, I think, is beneficial.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, we're hoping that other folks like you and others, will also be part of the welcoming committee for people who might be a little nervous. And we certainly welcome people lurking around and just checking out what's going on. I think it's part of the experience of being an open networking community. But we facilitators don't feel like we have all the answers or even all the controls. Like, we're happy to kind of be turning things over to other people to develop interests and maybe connect with other people that they see similarities with, or maybe dissimilarities, but they find connections anyway. So I think that's why Terry was wondering about that, about how people feel. So
I think that that's a real healthy way of looking at it, and especially if somebody finds a connection or an interest area in somebody that's not a facilitator and they need to feel comfortable approaching them. And I know that for myself, I have lots of resources, lots of ideas, and I'm open to anybody getting in touch and wanting to learn more, and I'm usually pretty good about doing that with other people as well. So even the lurkers that are out there, and that's how we all start, right? We all start just kind of watching and not saying much. That's how we all started. So we were all there. Don't feel bad if you're sitting there lurking. I was sitting in that seat a few years ago too, so don't worry about it.
I like to compare lurking to dark matter. Most of the world is made of dark matter. Most of networks are made up of lurkers. So yeah.
So we're going to turn to Gail, if you don't mind, Gail, and can I ask what you've been up to this weekend? Oh, Gail, I think you're muted right now.
I don't like to have it on when I'm typing. But my usual habit in the morning is to go to my email and take a look at what's come in. And every morning I get the NWP paper leave curation as well as the KinderChat curation. And today when I went to that the KinderCat Chat Daily, I saw a post by Matt Gomez about Visify. And so as is often the case, when somebody throws a new tool at you, you say, oh, let me go try it out. As Christina said, you just try things on, see how it goes. So I went to Visify, and lo and behold, it was relatively easy to do. And I got a simple Twitter video done, as Matt had done. And I posted it for my intro. And then all these other people are talking about going to Visify, and I'm reading I'm checking out the work they created, and it showed me so many more facets to it. So that's where the collaboration gets really rich. When you start with a certain amount of information, but somebody else can embroider it and make it look better. And that's where the real fun comes in. So that's what I was working on today.
Yeah, that Visify really, as Elise put in our chat here, really did take off today. It was amazing how one tool or one idea can suddenly kind of move in different directions. One of the questions actually that came up on Twitter kind of related to that was, is it still making? If the site is generating data, using your data to generate things, do we still call that making? And back and forth. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts about that. I guess Animoto is kind of somewhat in that same realm, perhaps. I'm not quite sure.
I think we add our own personality to the tools, and we go off in our own direction. What kind of music do you want to have for the background on this one? What photos do you want to include? You do have a certain amount of editorial say in what's going to be presented and the order of things. So it isn't make like WebMaker from Mozilla, which was start with code, but it's a realistic version and certainly one that's very usable in the classroom, I would say.
It looks good.
In chaos theory, they talk about initial conditions, and in a way, Animoto and Visify, it has a set of initial conditions built into it, but once you start plugging stuff in, that's when the chaos happens, and that's when you get stuff that emerges that's completely off and unique for each person. So, I'm in favor of these things, especially if it leads to other interesting sorts of repertoire you develop.
You know, one thought I had, and I know that we want to hear about Michael's make too, but I think that that's a really interesting question, and I'm glad you put it on Twitter. I think it's one that we could talk a lot about over the course of the MOOC, because so many more apps are created that do different elements of a creative process for you. So I think that is something to really think about. I do tend to think myself that one of the interesting things about these tools like Animoto or Visify is that, in a way, for somebody who's just getting started, there's a very low barrier of entry to being able to make something that you feel you could share. And I wonder if we don't think just about that one occasion of using that tool, but if we think about kind of the arc of a person's development long term, the opportunity to make something that that kind of expands your ambition early on and maybe sets you up to make the next step. Maybe you get to a barrier with that tool and then you say, wow, I'd really like to go learn Photoshop because I'd like to be able to control my picture a little more, or something like that. I think that can happen for a lot of people, and that it's more important to get started even at that low barrier point, and kind of break into seeing yourself as somebody who can make something on the web or build something. A lot of us started building with little kits, or things that actually set us up so that we could, before our skills really developed, make a product that we're really proud of. And then we start to kind of develop this identity as somebody who can make something or do something that might be part of helping us develop an interest and want to grow in a skill. More so than if we just shut ourselves off and say, oh, I can't do that. That's not for me. I can't code, or I can't this, or I can't that. And we just turn off. So I think they're really helpful, those kinds of experiences.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think that we're conscious of not judging what people are doing, because the way they come in is the way they come in, and what they use, I think, is really interesting and perfect for them at that point in time. So, but I think it's good to have bigger questions to be posed this summer too, as we're thinking through the kind of things that we're doing. So I do want to turn to Michael, who's been sitting patiently. Thanks, Mike, and ask him a little bit about what he's been working on this weekend, and maybe Terry can talk about what he was working on related to what Michael was working on too with Vialogs. Michael?
I think we should have got funding from Visify and Animoto here. The CL MOOC Google Hangout brought to you by Animoto and Visify. Yeah. So when I was thinking about my introduction, I was thinking back to the first MOOC that I did that started in January. It was the ET MOOC with Alec Couros. And when I did my introduction, I used GoAnimate. I mean, I hadn't used the tool before, and so it was like, all right, this is who I am. I'm a risk taker. I'm going to jump in, and I'm gonna shock myself. Well, when I got to this point, I thought, okay, I'm going to take a step backwards. I'm going to go into this easy, not because I want to, but I want to think about this as if I'm one of my students. Like it's the first day of school, I'm introducing myself. How do I feel? What kind of comfort level do I have? Am I gonna just be totally courageous, or am I gonna sit back and relax? And so I used a couple of tools. I used Animoto as as the tool to present myself, but I went back to pictures that I had been taking. And since January 1st, I've been participating in the Project 365 for EduGood, sponsored by Chrissy Venisdale. And let's see, today is day 167, I think, of 365, and I have not missed a picture yet. Thank you. Yes, I have a digital SLR camera. I don't even know how to use it. I don't know how to play around with some of the features of it. It's not very convenient for photo editing, because you got to take out the what do you call it? Take out the card and you got to plug it in. So for the longest time, I've just been playing around with you know, my cell phone camera and, you know, iPad camera and all of the free apps that are out there, or, you know, the 99-cent apps. And it's amazing on what those things can do. So right now, like I said, I've got 167 out of 365 pictures that I've taken that are related to some daily theme, and they're important to me. They speak to who I am as not only a professional, but as a, you know, as a father, as a husband, you know, as just a, you know, a guy in Arizona. So I went and picked 7 different pictures from each of those first 6 months. Put a little text in there, found kind of you know, we're talking about whether or not you're actually making the things like Animoto, you know, found the theme that seemed to fit, played around with the music, and it turned out the music that was defaulted to it, just, I mean, it fit perfectly. I could have played around with a lot of the other features, but just, you know, for this purpose, just I wanted to keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah,
Yep.
I agree. I think that whole notion of I was talking with Kevin about this earlier. I've got some colleagues who won't do video because they feel like it has to be perfect. It has to be the ultimate highest production value. And guess what? They never do it. Because that is just one of the hardest things in the world to do, is to do stuff like Kevin did for our introduction. So, you know, what you're saying is absolutely the way I approach things too, and I'm glad you're out there, Michael. Right on.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
And I mean, I thought that in looking at yours, that you know, you really captured a certain mood, and so you know, one thing we noticed today and yesterday a little bit with MOOC is that some people were taking work and kind of then moving it in different ways. Terry, you want to talk about what you did with the video?
Yeah. I don't know, Michael, if you've had a chance to look at it yet, but I took your Animoto video and I downloaded it and sent it to a really cool place called Vialogs. And I use that thing every possible chance I can get. And what it does is it allows you to annotate videos. And so I put it up there, and I've annotated your video. I've made comments. I've,
Awesome.
you know, put a bunch of stuff on there. And then Kevin has responded. And I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it yet, but
I haven't had a chance to. I saw that on the G Plus community page, but I'm definitely on my way there this evening.
yeah, it gives you a way of doing. I don't know. There's another one called Notes, I believe, Video Notes, that does something similar, but nothing quite like this. And it's a program set up. It's a Tufts University, I think, is the one who set it up. And I've talked with the people there. They're wonderful, and they, you know, it'll upload almost any video. And I've used it in my classroom. It just seems to be one of those tools that's awesome. And I love that. I love a tool that extends another tool, you know, that fits hand in glove with it, so that it makes what you originally, it amplifies what you originally did. And, you know, I just love that. And so if you get a chance to go there, Michael, it'd be great. I'd love to hear your comments about my comments.
I will definitely do that. And the fact that, you know, there was a conversation earlier about, you know, how much is too much and how much is not enough. I mean, the fact that I've shared this with, you know, essentially the world, putting it on Twitter, putting it, you know, in the Google Plus community. Yeah, it's mine, but I mean, I've set up all my pictures in my Flickr photo stream as, you know, Creative Commons use. I mean, because you know, I'm not Ansel Adams. I'm not taking these pictures. I'm not trying to make money on them. I mean, I want to share them with everybody else. And the fact that you feel comfortable taking something that somebody else created and, you know, adding your own, you know, notes to it, comments, you know, twisting things up, whatever, you know, that totally works for me. And that's, you know, that's the learning and the making and the connecting.
Yeah, and if I could build off that a little bit, I think I'm looking at the time here a little bit too. You know, one of the things we want to encourage people to do is not just sharing out their work, but sharing out their makes. that idea of the process of what they went through to create whatever it is they've created this summer. So that being said, at our website, we have a couple of features there that we hope people will access and use this summer. One is, I wonder if I can get to it from my screen share here. One is the idea of a Make Bank, and this was, hold on a second here.
I think I might have it up if you want.
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay. Let's see.
Please bring it up. The Make Bank is the idea of participants being able to submit ideas that will then be archived, not only for people this summer, but also moving into possibly other projects as well. And here, I think it's up on the screen here, explore the Make Bank. And as there's a link along with it that allows you to submit your own. But what you will see here too is that maybe at least click on one of those make kind of, yeah, that's fine, which is one that I did this morning around the animated one. And it's a kind of simple process of just kind of gathering some information about your idea, the thing that you're making, giving a quick description. If you have a screenshot, that's great. It's kind of optional. As we move forward into the summer, we start talking a little more about the principles of connected learning. It'll make a little more sense of how you might think about connecting that your make with one of the principles around connected learning. And even though there's only kind of 4 makes in the bank right now, our hope is really to populate that with a wide range of ideas that we can be inspired from, that you can be inspired from, and also a way to have an avenue for you to be participating in the kind of the collective idea of building something bigger, so kind of meta making, I guess.
Yeah. I think that's the idea behind the Educator Innovator project too, isn't it? That you might be able to take one of these makes and put it into your classroom and share it with other people, and make it work there as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think in addition to this Make Bank, which we hope there'll be just really broad contributions to, because that's just so helpful to all of us to crowdsource that sort of thing, we're also going to try to really spend time putting examples, especially in the G+ community, of how people have taken some of these ideas and maybe run with them in their work with young people. So, the interesting thing, I love this notion that making and creative activities can have a really low floor, low barrier of entry, an easy way to get in, but a really, really high ceiling, so that we can imagine where we could go in our own craft or with a group of students. I was thinking, for example, about the podcast Make With Me that Kevin and Terry, that the two of you did. And podcasting can be so simple and powerful at a simple level, but there's also these amazing examples. I just want to flip to one here. If you're looking at this website called the Library of Games, it looks amazing. It looks super high-end. It looks fabulous. But this is actually made by young people, and they started simply recording. They're a bunch of game kids who came and visited the library in Chicago, where the U-Media Center was, and who weren't interested in anything but gaming, and a librarian who said to them, well, you could at least podcast about what you think about games. And so they started this podcasting club, and that was like 2 or 3 years ago, and they've drafted more kids into it, and now they have this amazing site. They do a weekly podcast about video games. They have connections with the video game industry as the industry found them. They induct new kids into this, over time, the same way you do in the school newspaper or something like that. And they have this national reputation. And it totally started with just literally a librarian who herself, Taylor Bayless, who will say, I never did a podcast, and I really know a little bit about video games, but that's it. But I'm willing to learn how to podcast along with these kids, because it's the thing I can get them to do. So it started there, and it grew to this amazing thing. So you never really know. That low floor that gets you into something can have an amazingly high ceiling. And so we're going to try to put some of those examples in, too, just to show where things can go in work with young people.
I think those stories are going to be really important to be sharing out, not just the product or the thing that gets made, but the idea of how did we get there, and what was the failure along the way too. Because let's face it, that's part of the learning process. You get to kind of value that idea that we're learning from things that don't work. Terry and I can honestly say that we were doing our Make With Me broadcast. I think we did 8 or 9 tries, quite honestly. Because we were trying to figure it out, and we were learning each time, and it hopefully got a little better each time. And I think that was part of our making process of making a how-to video that we can share with you.
Yeah, and it's really funny. I kept screwing up though. I was trying to share an app through AirServe on my computer, and that's a little dicey sometimes. And so I couldn't make it work, and I just said, forget about it. But then it occurred to me, I could do it later and simply add it as an addendum to be included. And then Kevin just added a link to it inside of the video. So, if I hadn't made that mistake, I wouldn't have thought to go ahead and redo it. And then Kevin added even more value to it by putting it back into the original. So, these happy mistakes are just... If you don't use a simple tool, you're not going to make the happy mistakes. You won't develop the repertoire.
I like that, happy mistakes. So we also want to kind of let people know that at the MOOC site there's a place where you can submit your blog as well to get part of our blog hub, where we're collecting content as people are sharing out the things that they're doing. Again, becoming part of the kind of big collective experience this summer. We have a number of tools that the facilitators are using to facilitate and curate some of the content that's going on. And I shared out some Storifys earlier on Twitter today, but probably all of your work was in there featured as a way to kind of document some of the things that are going on, and different facilitators might be doing different things. And so we're really looking forward to the next couple of weeks as things go on. We're still right at the start of our Make Cycle 1, and Make Cycle 2 will begin a week from Monday. So we still have introductions moving forward. I think
the Twitter chat. Don't forget the Twitter chat this week.
Yeah, we have a Twitter chat on Thursday night. Remind me of the time, Terry.
Oh, God.
9.
Sorry.
I think it's 9 p.m.
9?
Thank you. 9 p.m. Eastern time.
Or 8 p.m.
Or
Eastern.
8 p.m. We'll be sharing all that information now, too, as we get closer as well.
It's all on the blog.
Yes, and we are really excited that our guests came here to join Terry and I tonight, and then anybody who's listening, that you're out there doing things and making things and thinking about it. I mean, that's really fascinating for us and exciting as well. Does anybody have any final thoughts they want to do as we kind of start and hang out here?
I did want to say that I heard a really interesting story about the invention of basketball. I live in Kentucky. I was born in Kentucky, raised in Indiana, and then moved back to Kentucky. So I've got the bloodline for basketball. But when Naismith invented the game, it really was a peach basket. And it took...
In Western Massachusetts.
Yeah, but that's not so great, because it took them 10 years to figure out to cut a hole in the bottom of the peach basket. And to me, I had a academy last week, and I said, look, you could be the person out there who cuts the hole in the bottom of the peach basket, and it's an awesome thought that somebody in this group could be the one that completely changes, who does exactly what Elise is talking about, creates new institutions for us to work within. And I think that's what's going to happen. Cut the bottom out of the peach basket. Please, somebody.
We have to end it there. That's a great way to end it. So I want to thank Michael for coming and joining us. Thanks, Mike. Gail, see you tomorrow at school, right? And Elise and Christina, and from Terry and I and all the other facilitators and people working to make this MOOC an experience worth coming to every day, every Make Cycle. We want to thank you for joining us and for sharing out your ideas and also your work and your thinking about how it might impact you as a learner and you as a teacher as well. So thanks for joining us tonight, and I guess I want to say good night to everybody.
Kevin and Terry, thank
Good
you.
night.
Thanks.
Good
Good
night.
night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you very much.
Night.